What's up, guys? Today we're going to talk about how to set your live guitar tone settings. I say live guitar because I approach this a little differently than I would with a studio recording. First, we're going to talk about if you're like a pedal stomping kind of player, how you would set all your pedals in such a way that you can stomp away and the tones are all going to sound good together. If you're like a set it and forget it kind of player, I'll show you a little bit of that at the end. That's a lot more simple. So like if it's a Marshall amp or something where you're using the gain from the amp, we can go over that. This is my general rig that I've been using lately. I'm using a Strat into a Vox amp. So the first thing we're going to do is get a good clean sound, just the guitar. I'm going to plug it through the pedals and into the amp, but we just want to see how it sounds with no pedals on. Make sure it's just a reasonable EQ. It's not too boomy or whatever, or too trebly or something. And then we will add pedals and customize them to the tone that the amp is at. I want to say this too. If you have like any pedals that are always on, you want to set the amp and that pedal together to start. And one more thing too, when you're testing out the tone live, you'll be at your gig, walk around and see how it sounds in different spots. Don't just judge it by the in-ear monitors or floor monitors, the sound through there, because that's just another middleman, and those usually make it sound a little worse. So judge it by like your ear hearing your speakers from your amp. So let's get that clean sound. Let's play a little bit. All right, I'm happy with that. I just adjusted the EQ on the amp, and I put a little bit of reverb on there because I don't have any reverb pedals, and I just like to have a little bit going. So now what we want to do is use the pedals, basically start with whichever one you're going to use the most, and then taper down. Your core sound is probably going to be, it depends what you play, but a clean sound and then probably some dirtier sounds. My rig right now has got 2 overdrives, delay, which I use very sparingly, wah, a boost, and I have a chorus and a phaser and a tuner. What we're really going to be going through is the 2 drives, the boost, and we'll play with some stuff after too. So what we want to do is use the first drive. So my first overdrive is this Boss Super Overdrive. If I use only one drive at a time, it's going to be that one. So that should be the first one that I test. So let's get the sound of that, and we want to just make sure that it's roughly the same volume when the pedal is on compared to when it's off. Alright, yeah, that sounds good to me. The next thing I'm going to do is stack 2 overdrives. Other people might work a little differently than I do, but the Super Overdrive is my first drive that I would use. And my OCD full tone, that's my second drive, I would only use it in combination with the other one. I don't really use it on its own. That's just the way that I work. So what we're going to do now is play something with just the first overdrive on, and then we're going to test it with both of them on. Make sure the volume is roughly the same, and then we'll customize the tone. Yeah, that's a good tone. I would use this for something like a heavier song or maybe for solos or big chorus. Next, what I'm going to do is test my boost pedal. So I have an EP booster, and this is only going to be used for big leads and solos. If there's an iconic riff at the beginning of a song, like Sweet Child of Mine or something, I'll use it for that. And the goal here is to actually make it louder. This is when you want to be heard louder through the mix. So we're going to set that pretty decent amount higher than the core tone that we've been working with. this is really good to do when you're playing with the full band. Play a little bit of a song and then stomp it on and see if it cuts through enough. If you have a sound guy too, they'll help you with this, or a sound person. But it's good to have the boost anyway, because not every sound person's going to raise your solo and lower it. So if you want to really be heard for your solos and your leads, then it's good to have one of these. I used to use a compression pedal. I'm going to add it back to my board soon, I think. But that's something that I would pretty much always use with clean. If I'm playing a clean sound, I would use the compression there. It gives you like a set volume pretty much. So I have a chorus pedal. The volume is usually reasonably close to your normal volume. Let's go with the clean guitar sound, and we're gonna match that with the chorus. My Boss chorus, I pretty much leave it everything at 12 o'clock. You get the chorus sound, but it's not overwhelming. So let's see how that sounds. I also use a wah pedal. It's rare for me to use it live, but there's like a couple songs that I use it for, and I would test that with both overdrives on and play a little bit of that. The only thing you really adjust on the wah pedal is like the Q is one of the knobs. There's a volume knob on it, and there's a frequency range knob. So let's try that out. The phaser you would do the same way as you would the chorus. I don't think we really need to go over that. The last thing we're going to try too is my delay. A lot of people use delays in different ways. You might be like a rhythmic riff kind of person, like The Edge, U2, you know, stuff like that. What I use it for is mostly just a little bit more atmosphere for my solos. So I set it pretty low, almost like a way that a reverb would be. So let's try that out. Yeah, that sounds good. So that is my way of stacking these things. I hope it makes enough sense. Like if you had 3 or 4 overdrives or distortions and drives and stuff like that. If you're going to use any on their own, test them on their own. And if you're going to use them only stacked, then test them stacked. And then anything else, start at the beginning of your chain and work your way down. And work with whichever pedals you use the most as well. Now we're going to talk about our set it and forget it tone. So for me, lately, I have been having a lot of fun using the Vox amp with the treble booster. You've probably seen some videos I have talking about that. I love that thing. So I would use a Vox, decent amount of amp gain, and then the treble booster, a decent amount of that. Also, once again, just EQ it in such a way that it sounds right to you, walking around the room, and not through any monitors or whatever. So if you're just like a rock player or whatever, then you can use a lot of the amp gain, and maybe you want to throw a pedal on a lot of the times, maybe not. That's up for you to decide, but start with the amp gain, get that as good sounding as you can. Then toss on anything that you would. Whenever I do the set it and forget it tone, like I call it, I use minimal pedals. If I do that rig that I just mentioned, I would use maybe the super overdrive for some solos if I really want like a big, heavier sound. But I don't combine too many like drives if I'm using the amp distortion or the amp gain. And yeah, test it with anything you would use it with, basically. But if you're like Angus Young or something, he's just going straight through the amp. I have a Marshall Plexi and I have a Marshall JCM 800. If I bring those to a live gig, it's pretty much play through that, boost the solos, because the tone is just so good on its own through an amp like that. Personally, I think that the best gains are from amps. You can get like a $100 pedal or whatever, but a $2,000, $3,000 amp is going to sound better than that little pedal. My personal preference, obviously I have pedals. If I played in just like a rock straight up band where I didn't have any clean tones, I would go the Marshall Plexi all day. I would boost the solos and then maybe an overdrive if I really want to get crunchy, but set it and forget it's very straightforward. The pedal stomping, you just want to go in order from cleaner to heavier and the least amount of pedals to the most amount of pedals that you'd use at the same time. Yeah, so that's that, guys. I hope you like this, and we'll see you next time.